Okay, in this video, I'm just going to be going through a few things here. This is a diagram just of a pipeline that I was working on with a client. I was mapping some things out for them, and I thought I'd make a video just kind of explaining what I took them through, because I think it might be useful for more people to hear and use. So I will walk you through this here, and by the end of it, hopefully you have a good idea of how you should set up your pipeline, what type of assumptions you can make, and how you can squeeze more deals out of your pipeline. So now, this here, just looking at it without any explanation, it looks pretty messy. It looks like, all over the place. So let me kind of walk you through this. I don't want to have to draw a whole new thing, so I'm just going to walk you through kind of each different kind of section here. So these kind of 5 things here. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or sorry, these 7 things here represent the pipeline stages. Okay, so you can see we have discovery, SQL, demo, or follow-up, decision maker bought in, or like demo not closed. Then we have contractor invoice out, then we have closed. So there are different ways that you would set up your pipeline, depending on a few things. So depending on whether you're selling to B2C, whether you're selling B2B, whether it is like info versus like SaaS versus like a service, an agency offer of some sort, or like a B2B service, typically you're going to have like 2 to 3 calls to get that closed, depending on the scope. Something like SaaS or like info, you can probably get it done in 1. And then depending on the channel, the marketing channel, this will also dictate whether or not they essentially go right to that discovery call, or you book them in for like an hour-long or 45-minute long call. Right. So if you're doing outbound, you're probably just going to want to book shorter calls, right? And also people are less receptive to booking like an hour-long call if they're getting an outbound email. You ask for like 15 minutes of their time, and they're usually okay with that. So then they would have to go through that discovery call, get classified as an SQL, then book a demo, for instance. Whereas if somebody was coming from inbound or paid traffic, you would have your calendar set up so that somebody's booking that that first call is a 45-minute or hour-long call. And then imagine these 3 pipeline stages kind of looped into that one call. Okay, so you're going to do the discovery anyways, right? You're always going to have to lead with the discovery, where you're qualifying folks and see if there's any way that you can actually work together, right, or help them. Okay, and then at that point, they'd be technically an SQL, right? So then you classify them as an SQL, and then you just go right into the demo. So it's a good way to actually avoid the drop-off from discovery to SQL versus discovery to demo booked right away, because there's really no opportunity for them to, let's say, not book a demo right after that discovery call. If you've only classified them as an SQL and then they didn't end up booking the demo right after that first call, you avoid that drop-off by just, doing inbound stuff, and then like paid traffic, and then booking those hour-long calls or 45-minute long calls, right? Because as I said, there's no drop-off there, and there's no opportunity for them to say, okay, yeah, sounds good. I'm not ready for a demo yet, but why don't you send me some stuff, and then we'll review it internally, and then we'll get back to you. Right, so that happens with outbound. With inbound, that won't happen. Okay, so there are these subtle nuances to the pipeline and into the sales process that people should be aware of. But anyways, this pipeline here, let's talk about outbound. Okay, so this is it's a pretty, I don't want to say trendy thing, but outbound email has been on the rise quite a bit for quite some time now, right? So I would say the past 2 years, doing outbound marketing, outbound sales has grown more and more useful, more and more popular among sales teams. I'm sure you guys see the offers out there, build a commission-based sales team, build an outbound sales team, outbound agencies, right? There's a ton of those popping up. More people are starting to do it in-house. Okay, so nevertheless, I want to kind of map out an outbound scenario, right? So imagine this access channel here, right, which is your marketing and acquisition mechanism. The marketing channel here will be outbound, and then the conversion mechanism will be inside sales, right, or sales. Now, let's say we'll make some assumptions here. So let's say this is your first pipeline stage, right? Discovery call booked, and you have a 75% show up rate, which is pretty standard. I've seen higher, I've seen lower, but we'll say 75%. That's pretty average. Okay, let's say your SQL rate is 80%. Again, I've seen higher than this. With outbound, it's very easy to be efficient in your marketing, because if you have a good data strategy in terms of who you're actually going to be sourcing contacts against, right, or what ICP you're going to be sourcing contacts against, rather, you can be very efficient in terms of weeding out anybody that's not like pre-qualified, right? So whenever your data strategy is however targeted or kind of wide you cast that net, will have a direct correlation on your SQL rate and also your discovery rate, and I mean It'll affect a lot of things, right? If you go really wide in your targeting, you can't really craft messaging that's that specific to anybody, right? And that's a pretty well-known kind of concept now. I'm not reinventing the wheel by saying that. That should be well known at this point. But anyways, you should have a high SQL rate, so 80% plus. Now, from your discovery and SQL rate to demo booked, it should be about 70%. So this means 70% of people that show up to the discovery call and get classified as an SQL should be booking demos right away. Okay, so there shouldn't be, I've seen like 60%, that's kind of like the bottom that I've seen, like maybe 55%, but typically you want that to be around 70%. So we're going to use a bit of a higher assumption here. Just for the sake of this argument, we'll assume that you have a good, discovery process in place that allows you to get to that second call pretty efficiently. So that's 70% of these people, right? 70% of those 75 people that showed up and were classified as SQLs booked the demo right away. Now, 60% of those people, okay, that booked the demo will move to decision maker bought in. And this is also factoring in a demo no-show rate. This is why this is a little bit lower. So this would actually factor in, there will be, usually demo no-shows is a very, like your demo show up rate should be really high. But nevertheless, this is kind of factoring in for some no-shows. Okay, so this will be out of this total pool of demos. Now, in terms of the conversion rate from decision maker bought in to contract sent or invoice sent or whatever you're going to be doing, however your process works, that should be about 50%. Okay, so 50% of the people that are bought in, that show up to the demo that you got bought in, and that's actually a pretty low rate. Okay, that should be 60 to 70% ideally, but I'm going to use 50% here to be a little bit more conservative. And then at least, ideally 70% of your contracts or invoices that you have out will close. Again, let's assume that 50%. Or hold on here. Well, I think we did assume 70% here actually. Yeah, we assume 70%. Okay, so never mind. We'll use 70% because that's what I use in this model. I just didn't write it down here, so we'll just put 70%. Okay, and then we'll just scratch that. Okay, so 70% should close. Now, let's say we have 100 discovery calls booked. We're just going to use that number because it is a nice round number, easy to do, this model with. So we're going to assume 100 discovery calls booked. 75% of them will show up, which means 25 no-shows. Okay, so 75 show up. What's 80% of 75? That is 60. Okay, so we have 60 total SQLs, right? So 75 times 0.8 will get you 60. And then 70% of these 60 equals 42. Okay, so that's that number there. 70% of those 60 folks will book through to a demo. And then 60% of those folks will be bought in enough for you to classify them as a bought in deal, right, or bought in decision maker. Or if you're just doing that like one call, you can do like a demo not closed pipeline stage. Doesn't really matter. Whatever you want to call that. Now, from there, those 25 folks, 50% of these folks will end up getting a contract or invoice, and then 70% of these folks will close. So we're just missing the 50% here. So imagine there was a 50% number here, and then 70% of these folks close. So the reason why I have why I make a distinction between decision maker bought in or kind of that really late stage opportunity right before they get like a contract or an invoice is because there's a huge difference. Okay, so for somebody to actually get an agreement from you or a contract or an invoice, you should know that they're sold, right? They should have given you that green light, like, yeah, we're ready to go, send it over, we're going to execute this, within X time frame. Okay, so that's why 70% of these people, of the contracts that you send out, should actually pay. Okay, and it should actually be higher than that. So you should not be sending contracts or invoices or whatever to folks that you don't think are actually going to close. Okay, so if somebody is you don't think they're quite there yet, and maybe they're asking for a proposal or something, but you kind of sense that they probably won't buy, just don't send it. Okay, and we can get into like what to do there in another video, but for the sake of this one, we'll just leave it at that. Don't send it unless you're absolutely sure. Okay, or unless you've sold them enough and they trust you enough to actually work with you. So, anyways, 70% of your invoices should close. That gives you 9 closes. Okay, out of 100 discovery calls booked. Okay, so you can see that's not that many deals in terms of to get 9 closed won deals out of 100 discovery calls. A lot of people, if you ask them, if I booked you 100 calls on your calendar, how many deals do you think that you could close from that? They would say, oh, I could probably close 25 or 30 or maybe even 40 of those deals. It's not the case because they don't view their pipeline as a formula. Okay, so the way that we're viewing it here, it's a formula. Okay, it's a conditional formula. Now, it's not, if your close rate is 25%, on whatever you're measurable. Let's say you're measuring it on SQLs, right? Then you should be closing like whatever 15-ish deals out of this, right? But you're not going to close 25 deals or 30 or 40 deals if you're booking 100 calls, because there's the no-show rate and there's all these other numbers here that we actually have to take into account to actually get to those later stages, right? And there's drop off, okay, at each stage. So if you close 9 deals out of 100 discovery calls booked and 75 shown, okay, and 60 SQLs, that is a 15% close rate on SQLs. Okay, so those are sales qualified leads, right? So we'll just double check this. 9 divided by 60 is 15%. Okay, so that's kind of what you can expect from outbound, right? So 9, 10, maybe 12 deals, right, depending on your close rate. But that will be pretty average. So when you are making your models or assumptions or forecasts, you should be taking into account what your numbers are here. And if you're not tracking these numbers, if you don't know what your SQL rate is, what your demo rate is, what your rate is to contract or invoice sent, what your close rate is from there, you have no way to actually make these models and lay out specific KPIs for yourself or your team moving forward, right? So if your goal is 10 deals a month and you don't know what your numbers are, right, what your KPIs are, then you have no way of even setting a plan for how you will get there. Okay, so now I want to talk about what you can do to actually increase this. Okay, so I'll get into like how to track that stuff and how to audit your pipeline and whatnot to actually find out what your numbers are and then how you can improve that stuff. We'll get into a little bit of that here. But what I want to do now is show you how you can improve your actual close rate. Okay, and how you can get more deals through your pipeline. Okay, and one thing to remember here is the goal is to move each deal to the next stage of the pipeline. Okay, so keep that in mind. You're not trying, if somebody's in SQL, right, in the SQL stage, you're gonna follow up a lot differently with the person there than you are with somebody that's had an invoice sent out to them for 2 weeks. Okay, you're not gonna give them like closing offers, right? You're not gonna say, hey, we can get you started for half off if you sign today, okay, or whatever else. We can get you started on a trial if you get started this week, because they're not bought in. Okay, they don't even know what you guys do. They haven't even had a demo. They haven't, they're not bought in enough. So, in order to increase this number, okay, you need to avoid drop off as much as possible throughout your pipeline. Okay, so you can see these numbers here. These are the numbers left over after we're accounting for these conversion rates. Okay, so 18 people will not have booked a demo, 17 of them will not have been bought in, and then 12 of these folks have not gotten a contract, and 4 of them have not closed. Okay, so that's a lot of leads, right? And 25 of them didn't show up. That's 51 leads. That's half of the people that you booked calls with. Okay, that's a big number, right? When we look at it like this, it's actually pretty surprising, right? You'd actually be shocked at how much spill off and balls, how many balls are dropped throughout the pipeline as a whole. Okay, so why does this happen? Okay, inactivity, just negligence or laziness, right? Letting leads slip through the cracks, ineffective follow-up, or just like not useful follow-up. Okay, so if you're not following up effectively based on where the person is in the pipeline and based on your previous conversations with people, they're not going to move to that next stage of the pipeline. And if your contact or follow-up volume is just too low, right, and the frequency is too low, these folks will fall through the cracks. Okay, and we can view this. We can kind of think of the pipeline, especially with outbound. Imagine this as your top, middle, and bottom of the funnel. Okay, so when it comes to outbound, typically the first thing that somebody will see in relation to your offer and what you do is that email. Okay, it's not like they're seeing an ad or some content or whatever it may be. The first thing that they see is that email. Okay, and then the next step, maybe you send them some collateral like before the call, but that discovery call itself is classified, at least I classify it, as a top of the funnel conversation. Right, it's not middle of the funnel because we're not solving their problem yet. We're not giving a solution to their, kind of pain that they outlined in the discovery call for us. We're still trying to engage them and educate them to a point where they actually want to have that demo. Okay, so if we are treating that right in the SQL stage as top of the funnel, what you need to do, right, for people that either no-show or get stuck in this SQL stage, is use a type of follow-up formula or method that will engage and educate these folks on things related to your offer and things related to their kind of problem that they're facing, right? So this is still, you want to still hit them with more like marketing geared material, okay? And the no-show type of person will definitely be different than the SQL type of person because you've actually spoken to them, okay? So these two buckets of people need to be getting different types of material from you and follow up. But let's focus on the no-show. I don't really want to focus on that because that's really just you're gonna reach out to them a few times, try and get them back on the calendar, and then if not, you're gonna put them maybe in like another nurture sequence, right, or some like long-term like drip of content. Now the SQLs, you need to get them to believe right? Or not necessarily get them to believe in like a unethical way, but help them to understand why your solution might actually be able to help them, right? Ask them questions, right? Ask engaging questions. Send them engaging content that will educate them, right, on the problem that you're trying to solve, okay, and what their options are to go about solving that, okay? Entice them to actually book a demo, to want to see more. That's all you got to do. And as a result, that 20% of people, right, or sorry, that 30% of people that did not book a demo with you, you'll scoop up some more opportunity there, right? There's going to be a conversion rate on your follow-up where you can get people back into the pipeline. Now, looking at demo follow-ups. So these are folks that maybe didn't show up for a demo. You have to, again, just try and get them back on the calendar. But let's say you had a demo with somebody and they're not that sold, right? And you haven't moved them down to that decision maker bought in or like not closed stage. This person, you're going to want to figure out, and this one's a little bit different because there was likely an objection that came up, right? That is holding up the deal. So what you need to do is figure out what that is if you haven't done that already on the call. Okay, so at this point, we're getting probably, into the later stages, right? This is like middle of the funnel, getting them to, understand how you can actually help them and solve their problem specifically. Okay, so if you haven't done that effectively on the demo, they're not going to move to the next stage. And if there was an objection that was not addressed, then they're not going to move on to the next stage. Okay, so a lot of times what will happen here, you're going to get folks that say, oh yeah, let me think about it. Okay, so that's probably the majority of the people that are going to be in that stage, right? People that you show a demo to, and they're going to say, let me think about it. Okay, most salespeople do not know how to handle that objection. Okay, they say, yeah, no problem. I'll follow up with you. I'll send you some information, blah, blah, blah. That's not a real objection. Okay, let me think about it is not an objection. That is a smoke screen or cover up, right, or deflection from what they're actually thinking. Okay, so there are a few ways that you can do this, right, and get around that objection. Again, I'm not talking about like objection handling here, but that will be the majority of the folks that are in that stage. So what you need to do is figure out what is blocking them. Okay, what's the holdup? What's coming up for them that is making this a no-go? Right? Do they believe that your process, your product, your service can help them? Okay, if they do, you need to know that, first of all. If they don't, then you have to do some more selling. You actually have to convey the value of your service or product or offer, and actually, convey that and get them to believe that it can help, right? Because you can. If they don't do that, or if that's not the problem, it's probably something to do with their budget, right, or the investment. Maybe the timing is off, right? Maybe they just don't think they need it, right? Maybe they have partners that they need to speak with. Okay, if you don't know that, you're not going to know how to effectively follow up with that person. So your goal here, for people that are in this kind of demo stage, right, that you've already spoken with, that have not gone to the next stage, you need to figure out why they're, basically not bought into that point where they will, move on to the next stage. Okay, so that's what your follow-up should be geared towards, right? You can sprinkle in certain things here. You can sprinkle in case studies. You can sprinkle in content, but you want to be pretty personalized at this point. Okay, so we can build out these different kind of protocols and workflows where you can, set up a 5, 6, 10 step follow protocol to, increase your follow volume with this person and figure and actually provide some, useful kind of information to the conversation. Okay. Or get useful information from them into the conversation. And that's going to be figuring out, what their objection is, because at that point there is one if they have not bought, right, or moved on to the next stage. So from there, if somebody is in that decision maker bought in stage, right, or that like demo follow-up stage, there can be a few reasons why deals get held up here. One of them can be timing. Okay, it can be budgetary. So if they are bought into the process, right, and this is like kind of that negotiation stage, right, where you're just, on the 1 yard line, they're there, but you need to present them with favorable terms, right? If they haven't, already seen favorable terms and agreed to get a contract and move forward, or get an invoice and move forward, you need to figure out what the most favorable terms are going to look like. Okay, now there's a few reasons again why deals get stuck in the bottom of the funnel. It can be, ROI/pricing can be, a thing here. Maybe, if they're bought in already, ROI maybe isn't quite it, but maybe it's something to do with their budget, right? Maybe their timing is a little bit off. Maybe they want to get started in 2 months, right? So on and so forth. So what kind of closing offers can we present to these folks to create some urgency to kind of get them over the line? Okay. So again, you're going to have a handful of people in that stage, at that later stage in the funnel or in the pipeline. And, you need to have proper follow-up there to get them to the next stage. And then if there's not consistent follow-up and useful follow-up, right, specific to why they actually are not moving forward, that deal's going to die, right? They're going to be close lost. So again, you're trying to get them to that point where they are asking you to move forward. Okay. Now, from there, Contract or invoice sent. At this point, again, they should be closing. You should have a kind of timeline that you agree upon with them, by which they will actually pay, right? Or get started or sign, whatever that's going to be. And, if somebody is dragging their feet here, I've seen it in the past. I've seen a few different scenarios. Some people, you send them an invoice and they'll just, end up ghosting you, or something will come up. Again, you need to figure out what the holdup is, right? And why they're, not getting started, or not paying the invoice, or not signing the contract. This can be avoided. This can be avoided if you, preemptively, make certain agreements as to, okay, we're going to get you started on this date. Okay, you can, if you're doing it like on a demo, right, or on a call, reviewing like a proposal with them, get them to pay or pay a deposit on that call. There are certain things that you can do to preemptively avoid the, having this kind of drop off from contracts sent to people not paying. But again, in a B2B scenario where you're sending out like proposals or contracts, there's going to be that certain drop off. Again, it can be something in the contract that kind of that they've seen, or their legal team has seen, that they can't get approval for, or they don't like, or that you need to change. Again, this is all about just figuring out what it is that's actually holding them up. You don't want to lose deals to inactivity. Okay, and this is something that I see time and time again. It's just deals being lost to inactivity or ineffective follow-up, right? And not getting the necessary info that you actually need to move the deal forward. Okay, so how can you actually go about doing this? You can create, right, a different follow-up sequence or workflow for each of these stages. Okay, and then that will, once somebody gets into that stage, that will automatically, trigger that workflow or a sequence to go out, or tasks to be set for, that follow-up activity to actually take place. Now, let's say you can get another 3 or 4 or 5 deals a month, or however, depending on how well your outbound does, out of every 100 calls, you're getting an extra 3, 4, 5, 6 deals, right? Which is very doable. Let's say you close 10% of the folks that are, those 51 folks, right, that are part of that drop off. Let's say you close 10% of those. That's 14 deals now. Okay, which brings you up to a 23% close rate. Okay, let's say you double that. Let's say you can, close 20% of those deals, right, just by, conducting better follow-up. Then you're at 19 deals. Okay, you've got 10 more deals out of your pipeline. That brings you up to a 32% close rate. Okay, look at the difference there from 9 to 19, or even 9 to 14, depending on what a deal is worth to you, right? If you're doing outbound, it's probably worth quite a bit. That's a big difference. Okay, let's say you're selling $30,000 deals, right? 5 extra deals, 150,000. That's 150,000 in, depending on how you charge it, if it's like monthly or upfront, that's, can be 150,000 in extra cash collected, or 150,000 extra revenue, right? So massive difference here, and massive benefit to, making the most out of your pipeline here and being efficient with your leads and not losing deals to inactivity or, ineffective follow-up. So, yeah, and especially right now, the way things are kind of in the market, you don't want to be burning leads and wasting money on leads if you can't close them, right? Or if you're just not going to follow up with them. Okay, so if you need help with that and you don't want to spend the next few months trying to figure out how to actually do this, book a call with myself and my team. We will, figure out how we can, help you build out a system to do this, if you even need it or want it, and we can go from there. But in the next couple of videos, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into a few different things. So how to actually build out these sequences, right, and how to, just how to go about that, what you can actually include, how to structure them, and then we'll also get into how to structure your different scripts. Okay, so, and objection handling, things of that nature. So yeah, I'm going to cut this video now because it's getting a little bit lengthy, but yeah, if you enjoyed this, drop a comment or a like wherever this is being posted, and then if you need help with this, book a call. Thank you.